I wanted to start by asking you about spatial language. Can you explain what spatial language is?
I often divide spatial language into two categories, what I call the what words that describe shapes, dimensions like tall and short, wide and narrow, even big and little, and features of objects like whether the side is straight, curved, whether there's an angle, a corner, that kind of thing, and the where spatial words, which could describe, where things are in the world. Are they on, in, under, in front, behind, that kind of thing.
Why are those words important as a child's beginning to develop, and are they harder to learn?
Well, they are relational words, and they're harder to learn than, say, pointing to a cup or a light, and the child learning those words, object words. And early on, children seem to have a bias toward thinking words refer to whole objects rather than parts of objects, or the relation between objects, that one of these objects is taller than the other or shorter than the other. So they are harder to learn than nouns. And why are they important? Spatial words are important because they sort of serve as an invitation, I think, to engage in spatial thinking. So it turns out that children who know a lot of spatial language and hear a lot of spatial language from their caregivers are better spatial thinkers. So even when they're asked to do tasks like imagine what two shapes will make if they come together, that involve no language whatsoever, the kids who have a bigger spatial vocabulary, even sort of controlling for their other words, do better on those tasks.
Is there an age at which that becomes more evident?
We've studied kids from 14 months to about 54 months, or you could say, from 1 to 5 years of age or so. And yeah, I mean, the hearing the spatial words from the parents seems to be very important from, 1 year of age onward. The first time we detect differences in spatial thinking of these kids is about 4.5 years of age.
Could you give me an overview of what you and your colleagues were trying to determine?
Yeah. Well, it's been known for a long time that males do a little bit better on spatial tasks than females, certain ones, like the one I described, imagining the rotation of an object or what objects will make if they come together. We sometimes refer to that as mental rotation ability. So that starts pretty young. Even some people say it's present in infants. We also knew one other thing, that kids who have a bigger spatial vocabulary, tend to do better on these nonverbal spatial tasks like mental rotation. So what we asked in this particular research project is whether boys know more spatial words than girls, and whether that might be because parents use more spatial words with boys than girls.
How did you go about determining that?
Well, I had an opportunity to look at that question because I'm part of a longitudinal language project that starts when kids are 14 months of age, and we're continuing to follow these children. They're actually now in middle school. But so this started quite a long time ago, and it was a project funded by NICHD. So what we do in that project is we go into families' homes and we ask them to just do what they ordinarily would do. And it's a very diverse sample socioeconomically. So we videotape them for 90 minutes, and then we come back to the lab and we transcribe all the language of the parent and the child, and even the gestures that they did while they were talking. So yeah, that gave me the opportunity to look at, what spatial words are being used by these parents and by these children over development. And in the particular study that we're focusing on today, I looked at the spatial language from 1 year of age to 4 years of age in 9 visits, 9 90-minute video tapings of these kids.
And how many children?
There were 58 children in the study.
And what did you find?
Well, we found that parents do use more spatial words of the what kind, and that's what I focused on in this study, with boys than with girls. And because of that, the boys also produced more of that spatial language than the girls. So it sort of confirmed our hypothesis that this might be related to the difference in their spatial skills. And the reason their spatial skills are important, like somebody might wonder, like, well, why does it matter if I can mentally rotate or think spatially? It turns out that spatial skill is very predictive of entering and success in the STEM disciplines. And by that I mean science, technology, engineering, and math, which is, there's a lot of job opportunities out there in STEM. Women are underrepresented in some of the STEM disciplines. So these kinds of findings that we're uncovering early in life are, I think, important for changing parent behaviors and ultimately for diversifying the STEM pipeline.
Why are parents using more words with boys than girls, more spatial words?
Well, that's $1 million question, and I'd love to know the answer, but my working hypothesis is that well, first of all, parents might hold stereotypes about, certain activities being more, boyish or girlish, like playing with blocks. We know that boys play more with blocks than girls. Part of that could be because they like them better. But I think a lot of parents, and even in some preschools, kids are allowed to opt out of playing with blocks. They're not allowed to opt out of reading because they're not interested in it. But if activities like block play are the places where kids hear a lot of spatial language, and some kids like it more than others, and those kinds of activities and language build spatial thinking skills, then all children should be given the opportunity to rotate through block centers in school and have these kinds of materials to play with at home.
What are some things that parents should think about when they're having these communications, when they're interacting with both boys and girls?
Well, even though spatial language is more likely during spatial play, like with blocks and puzzles, it's also possible to engage in a lot of spatial language just in everyday life. So we can point out shapes to kids, label them, but also tell kids why is the shape of a rectangle? Because it has 4 straight sides and 4 angles, not just label it, because then they might think a shape that kind of looks like a rectangle but isn't is also a rectangle. So, when you're setting the table, you could talk about that the plates are round, or which fork is bigger than or longer than another fork, those kinds of things. There's lots and lots of opportunities to use spatial language with kids. We also have some evidence that giving kids gestures along with the spatial language. So, this block is longer than this block, taller or shorter, to use this is a straight side when you're doing a puzzle, and this is a piece that has a curve. That helps kids understand what these words mean when they're first learning them.
Do you have any other tips? Is it equally as important for a parent to encourage their daughters to play with blocks?
I think it's very important for all kids to have the opportunity to play with blocks, to play with puzzles, to draw. And you can do a lot of spatial thinking when you're drawing too. So any kind of building skills, or constructing in any way is an ample, great opportunity to engage in spatial thinking and spatial language. I'm not an advocate of forcing kids to do things, but I think that they should have the opportunity to do it, and if it's done in a playful way, where you don't only just put the blocks out, but you engage the child in goal-based thinking, like what would you like to build, and let them have some agency in the activity. I think that they're going to engage and they're going to enjoy it.
How important is it for parents to set the mood when you're playing, to make sure that this isn't something that is scheduled and intensive and not fun?
Well, I think that that's a really important question, because I'm not advocating parents using flashcards or having a list of words that they want their kids to know, but just being a little bit intentional about using language in particular ways and exposing kids to that language, so that when kids are walking around the world and they know these words, they might be more likely to take in the fact that one object is wider than another or taller than another, and then they'll start using those words themselves, and then they're going to become better spatial thinkers. So I think doing this in a playful, natural way is very important.
Where you did your undergraduate studies, master's, advanced degrees.
I did my undergraduate studies at a small women's college, which is becoming a university in Boston, Massachusetts, Simmons College. And then I went to MIT. I got my PhD in psychology at MIT. And then I came straight here as an assistant professor. And I actually started in pediatrics, and it was called behavioral sciences then, but it became the psychology department.